Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition, very rare edition nowadays, of a GeekVerse Thought Bubbles. I am Travis Snail from GeekVerse. I may be on a hiatus from GeekVerse, but you can't keep a good geek down. Go check out their last episode. They did their first without me. They're killing it over there. I wanted to jump on my little soapbox here and talk about Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. Geek for Slot Bubbles, it's just pretty much just YouTube videos we use for random stuff, whether they're little specials or reviews. This is just a review, not an official episode, just something fun, something nice and short, I think, because, let's be honest, Wet Hot American Summer, I don't know, I don't think you could do a 2-hour podcast about this and break down every single little character. To give you my experience of the past, I had seen this a long time ago. I don't even know how I had seen it originally. It was just on TV. Someone was watching it, but I saw it pretty early on, and I've seen it a couple times throughout before they came back to Netflix. And when they announced that they were doing this show, getting everyone together, I was so excited. And that season came out, and I loved that season. That's actually one of my favorite comedies as far as like TV show wise. You can go back, I think I talked about it a little in depth a few years ago on GeekVerse. I did like a mini review and I talked about it, and I just thought, yeah, it's dumb comedy, but it's done so smartly and so well. The only, not negative, but things that I had when the show was announced, like, oh, we're coming back, we're getting everybody back together, and that was so cool too, especially because so many of those people have become on, or gone on to become bigger stars, and that to me was a big thrill, because it's kind of hard nowadays when that happens, little reunions, and we can talk about that with this season, but, with that, the only thing was when they announced it was a prequel to the movie, it was still funny of like, haha, okay, they're playing younger people. But the way that movie ends, when they're like, hey, 10 years later, let's meet back here, what this season is pretty much based upon, I was like, oh, they're doing a prequel, that kind of sucks. Then they did that, knocked out of the park. I did not have any complaints, really. And then when they said, oh, we're doing it again, and it's going to be 10 years later, and it's going to be like what they set up, like, let's meet back here at Firewood Camp, that was very exciting, and I was very excited. And there was something where I was excited for the show to come back the first time, but I didn't really know what to think, and I didn't know how it was going to work, and it was this kind of like, not worrisome excitement, but just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is, I'm excited by the concept, but I don't know how the execution's going to go, and they knocked it out of the park. This for me is the reverse, where I was excited, overly excited. You look at my Twitter at trustbsnail.com. At .com, who uses that? Maybe just at Nexopia, but go to Twitter, find me there on my personal Facebook. And since the trailer dropped, I was very excited. Same thing, majority of the people were coming back. It looked like more of just insane fun. And it is insane fun, and I'm going to be doing a review right now. It's going to be non-spoilery. I'm not going to give away any specific things, but really it's Wet Hot American Summer. What is there to really spoil? But, yeah, very anticipated. It did not match my anticipation, and I think this is a case where I got maybe too excited. But there's just like a few things I'll bring up, and that's the thing. Comedy's subjective, so... you could go, and I haven't read many reviews. I saw one that said, oh, it was better than the last one, and then one review said, oh, they should stop maybe now. So comedy is very subjective, maybe the most as far as any genre in film or TV. So this is not going to be, in some movies they're going to be like, I don't understand how you could like that, or you'd have to really tell me. You could watch this and like love it, and I get that. I still really enjoyed it. It was a good 2.5 hours. It was a fun binge. I liked it. I had a few good laughs. The difference was with when I say Wet Hot American Summer, I'm just going to be referring to the TV show, not the movie, because different beast. So the first season, the second it was over, I wanted to watch again. I told Kyle about it. I told everybody I could about it. You gotta watch the show. Watch the movie first, please, because people that didn't do that, I didn't understand it. It's so easy, but I was going out, and there was the thing of like, I did watch it again right away, and I loved it. I was like, this is something I could watch over and over, and I haven't again. I was gonna before this, and I didn't get around to it, but it's still something I think I could go back to. It's one of those comedies like a Step Brothers just watched the other night, or a Pineapple Express for TV version, and because it's short, that's the best thing. The last season was like same thing, 8-10 episodes, whatever it was. They're 22, maybe 30 minutes sometimes. So it's really like digestible and really easy, and it doesn't feel like a slog. And sometimes with the stuff you feel like you could leave it on in the background, like the second time I watch it, because it's just like, it's like something with Deadpool. It's just kind of like, it's a fun thing you can tune in and out of and always get the jokes. This one, I think I could watch again in the future, but it's going to be quite far into the future. I didn't have the same love that I had for the last season. Let me get into the pros before I get into cons, because I think there's more cons, even though when I give my score at the end, it'll kind of reflect that I did like this overall. It's kind of how I felt about my Spider-Man Homecoming review. I pointed out a lot of negatives, even though I say that's a really, really good movie. I'm so thrilled with that movie the way it turned out, but I had a lot of negatives. I think this will be similar, but I still really enjoyed it. And if you're just tuning this, if you don't want to hear anything else, if you like the wet hot American summer comedy, you're gonna like this. It's the same way I love that comedy, and they still pan out well. It's still great. The characters that you know and love are back. It's still a fun time. Yeah, not every joke lands, and I'll get into that after, but I think if you like the show, you're gonna like this. If you don't like this, don't jump on now. And if you're kind of in the middle, you could skip this one. To me, if you're kind of in the middle of the movie, I'd say, hey, give the first season a shot, because I think they knock it out of the park. This one, I could kind of say, you could skip it. I don't think it's going to convert you. So the positives was, cast is always great. Cast is funny. I always forget his name. Michael Ian Black, he plays McKinley, and he plays, minor spoiler, but once again, he plays George W. Bush Sr., or just George Bush Sr., not W. Bush. He plays George Bush Sr., and he's so good at that, the same way how Reagan is portrayed. It's very comedic, very outlandish, they take all the tropes and all the kind of twitches that he had and just amplify them by 10. But he was, I think, the MVP of this season for me. I liked him enough last season, but this, for some reason, when he was... The president stuff was good, but the McKinley stuff was great. The storyline of them... And like I said, I won't tell you what happens, but the storyline is like him and what the fuck is his name? Why am I forgetting his actual name? Adam Scott. Him and Ben. I remember Ben, but I forgot Adam Scott. I like Adam Scott. Him and Ben have this like babysitter, and she may or may not be a psychopath. That's all I'm gonna say. It's lots of fun. That was my favorite storyline I had this season, and all the stuff's so wacky, but that was lots of fun, and he just killed it. He was my favorite part. All his reactions, whether they were as Bush or as McKinley, were great, but the McKinley stuff was awesome. Once again, the length is the same thing. I enjoyed it. I wasn't over the moon with the show, but I wasn't at the point where I'm like, oof, this is like feeling a slog. I never want to turn it off and I'm like, oh, I want to take a break. I literally watched the whole thing. I got off work, watched it from start to finish, and I had a good time. So I think the pacing of it is, I think it's still good. Not as good as last season. I'll get that in a second. As far as the rest of the cast, everyone's good. Chris Maloney is great, but lots of stuff I want to lean to cons. I'm trying to think. Fun soundtrack. It's just a good zaneness comedy. And the thing is, will there be another season? I don't know, but what they do well. So I'm gonna get into cons now. I might bring up more pros, but the whole show is pretty much a pro overall. It's a good time if you like the show. I know I've said that before, but I can't enhance that enough. It's like the comedy, if you like it, if you like that type of stupid, fun but kind of smart comedy, like something that there's a couple times where they play on certain tropes of comedy, or maybe some like kind of like behind the scenes of Hollywood, or just stuff at one point when they're like, hey, we want to have that conversation. It's like, yeah, I want to talk about that in episode 2. There's some fourth wall breaking. It's very well done, and it's thought out. Even though it's like the characters and the situations are dumb, you can tell it's really thought out. So that's the main positives. Really enjoyed it. My cons was, I think the biggest one... Actually, I'll talk about this first, because it's not really a con. It's a little bit of a con, but they get away with it like other shows can't. I didn't know about this until I started watching the show. Bradley Cooper was not in the trailer, so I thought, was he gonna die? Was he gonna be written off? Or maybe just a cameo at the end or something like that. And they recasted him with Adam Scott. They said that these are minor spoilers, but he got a nose job, and that's why he just looks so different. And they made a good job of talking that up a little bit, and then it just kind of dropped. I would have liked to see the other people react, but it's funny enough. Adam Scott did a good job, but I didn't feel like the same. I felt a little cheated with... That's the thing. I felt a little cheated, but then the way they handle it, it's kind of funny, and you kind of give them a pass. It's like, oh, it's Wet Hot American Summer. This is what they do. This is how they deal with stuff. This is how, hey, we can't get Bradley Cooper to come back for another season. We're just going to recast him, and it's Adam Scott. I applaud them for doing that, and they're just moving forward, which is good. They also won the Ben character there. And it's kind of funny because they keep calling back to it for the first few episodes, and then it drops away. But it still felt like for the reunion, it felt a little bit like he was missing, and that's where I guess my biggest con was. And maybe this is just because the first one was the first one. I didn't feel like that magical feeling of seeing them all together again, you know. And there was stuff like just little things like, even though Adam Scott is a new person playing Ben, like he has a scene with Amy Poehler and they talk a little about, and then they break off and you don't really get anything more with them. There's certain threads that are kind of stopped and started, which is, once again, it's what American Summer, but it's little stuff that I felt that the last season was like, oh, each character had their story and then you followed the whole way through. Where this kind of, there's a lot of stop and starts with stuff. I think the pacing was good as far as length. I did not think the way they used the characters were as good. And I'm not sure if this is what I was going to my biggest con is. I think with the first season, you could tell that, okay, at one point Bradley Cooper, for the last episode or last two episodes, he ends up putting a ski mask on because, like, okay, we couldn't get him to film, but that was kind of funny, you know, like, we couldn't get him, how are you gonna do it? Oh, we'll use, like, a fucking Bradley Cooper double, he'll have a mask on, and then at the end he takes off and he's Bradley Cooper, he's been there the whole time, right? It was a fun way to do it, and that's where I felt like that's the only thing that, as far as them doing things, like, thinking them out, I think the first season did that better as, okay, we have this cast, everyone's really busy, how do we utilize everybody and make it seem like they're always around and they're always a part of the thing and there's no holes. This felt like a lot of, hey, we couldn't get this person, so they're gonna go sleep in a bed for a few episodes. And they do, 100% every time they do address it with a joke. And they are making a butt of that joke. Like, or they're the butt of the joke, but they're the ones telling the joke, so they get it. They know that, hey, we're gonna pick up on that, and why try to play coy when we can just say, oh yeah, like, I was gone away, or where were you? Oh, I was just busy, like, you know, dealing with my plot, you know, like, they lay the groundwork for it to be okay, but at the same time, it felt a little lacking at times, the stars. And like I said, you didn't have Bradley Cooper. There was just, and there's a lot of people too, and that's why I don't even know, like with Christopher Maloney, like maybe he was busy. It felt like that. If he wasn't busy, then I'm not sure why he wasn't used more or used differently. Like, I felt the first season kind of did a Game of Thrones thing where you'd have like, okay, you have your 5 characters, whoever they are. There's like a Ben, there's a Gary, there's a Beth, like Nancy, like I'm trying to think of Coop, like all these people, you have them, and they would have their story. Like the first episode was them kind of all meeting up and then splitting off and doing their storylines, and you followed their storylines all the way through. And it was like a Game of Thrones thing where each episode you got like little blobs of it. Like, oh, here's 5-7 minutes of that storyline. Here's 5-7 minutes storyline. And etc. And I think that made it better of feeling there was not a void with the stars being gone or any of the actors. You felt like they're always around, where this felt like people would disappear for a while or storylines would disappear in the background. And like I said, it's a fun little comedy, but that's what I like. That's what I'm pointing out what I liked from the first season more than the second season. I felt it flowed better that way. I felt that it wasn't noticeable, where for me, it was noticeable and it kind of took it down a little bit. Like Elizabeth Banks, this is a minor spoiler, so if you really don't want to hear it, but she does not have a single scene with any of the other cast until the very last episode. And it felt strange, and then I think there were some times where, okay, maybe you'd have one scene of her in an episode, but then that was it. I get it, she's a busy woman, she's in Power Rangers, she's directing movies, but it was just the way it was kind of done didn't feel right. Even if they would have took one character from the main cast and maybe had them pop into her stories every once in a while, and they did it in a way where she could just shoot in like some sort of set and then they can incorporate it in the show. They did that with many people, like they did with Jason Schwartzman. Like they did that where, and eventually at the end episode, that's where they all come together and you see them. But for the most part, it really felt like they were off on their own, you know, like it really felt like, hey, these people are not here the same day as shooting, we gotta do this. Where the first season you could pick that out, but it never felt like that. Like it felt like the camp was always full and kind of alive, where this, it felt like you were watching at times like someone's whole story at, if you were watching it from point A to maybe halfway into point B, you know, like it felt like there was long periods of people and then there was long periods of them not being around certain characters. And that kind of disappointed me. And like I said, I'm not sure if that's something they chose to do. It felt like to me, I could be wrong, because like I said, Christopher Maloney, I'm sure he's like, he's a working actor. He's doing stuff, but I don't see him in a bunch of stuff, so I didn't think he'd be that busy. So if they wrote it that way, then that's their choice. But then if it's the acting way, I guess you kind of have to do that. I just think that they did it better last season than this season. It kind of felt a little jumbled here and there. It felt that, hey, like I said, sometimes the people, like, it would literally just be one line, that person's gone for a while. And this is the thing, yes, they make a butt of the joke, but it would suck that some of those people were gone, you know? Like, that's where I guess some of the magic felt away, because Paul Rudd, for example, he's in there for, if you really don't want to be spoiled, you can jump ahead, but this is just the number of episodes he's in. Like I said, it's What About American Summer. I hope you're not worried too much about being spoiled, but, like, first 2 episodes he's not in, and then he's, I think, maybe the first episode he's not in, the next 2 he plays a big role, and then for a while he's, like, gone for a little bit, and then he comes back, and then he's gone for almost to, like, the finale, and they're like, oh, you've been here the whole time? And once again, they do address it every time, but it just stuck out a lot more this time. It felt, like I said, they could have filmed maybe, even then, like, with Elizabeth Banks, at least they put a droplet in. My thing was, okay, she felt so by herself, it didn't even feel like she was in the show at times. Where Paul Rudd's primarily in the camp, he does talk to other people. Like, just film a scene that you could drop into an episode here and there. So I think that was my major complaint. The other thing I said, call me subjective. I didn't find it as funny this season. I had a lot of good laughs, don't get me wrong, but there was a couple of jokes that maybe went on a bit too long, where I think last season almost everything hit for me. There's one kind of joke with, you'll know when you see it, I don't want to spoil, but it's with George Bush and Reagan, and they're doing something to a model, and not a person model, like a model building, like a fake small little model, like a center for ants, like that sort of deal. And it went on for too long, and I did not find it funny. And that was the thing too, where there was a couple where it wasn't even like, oh, I got a chuckle. It's just like, this isn't that funny. It's subjective. It's up to you. I think you could watch it and have a good time, but I don't think the comedy was as crisp as the last time. And trying to think of anything else I really want to shout out. I think overall, yeah, I think I'll get to my overalls, because I think overall it's a good time. If you like the last show, you'll like this at least a little bit. I don't think if you watch the show and then if you love the first season or you liked it and you hate this, let me know, because I don't think it's going to be that sort of 180. I think you would at least like it, but I don't think it measures up to the first season. And as far as another season, I'd be 100% down, because I still like these characters. I got excited. I won't be as excited if there's another season, but it does kind of end the last one ended in a way it didn't have to go on, and it kind of did the same thing for this, where it ended in a way that it doesn't have to go on. And if it were to end here now, like I said, I would take more seasons, but I'd be okay with it. We did the funny prequel thing again. We did the 10-year reunion. I don't know what more there is to go, and I felt like sometimes, even joke-wise, they were spinning their wheels a little bit. I gotta look his actual name up. Ken Marino. I fucking love this guy. I always forget his name, and I feel so bad. He was so good in the movie. He was my MVP of the last season, and he's good in this. Another pro I want to shout out was him and his fun storyline. There is a fucking super weird ass disturbing sex scene in this show, and it's great because it's so fucking weird. Chris Pine is great. Chris Pine is somebody that I don't know when I'm going to make a bunch of announcements. I keep saying I'm going to add people. I think 100% is going on my man crush list. Between, what the fuck was that movie? What's the movie that's, like, not as good as No Country for Old Men, but everyone loves it? Hell or High Water. He's great in that, though. Wonder Woman, he killed it. He's great in this. And I really liked him in the Horrible Boss sequel. He's really killing it, and he's becoming a favorite of mine. I can't wait to see what he does next. The other con was, this is where I felt like this was, I'd say, my second biggest one, but it kind of ties into the first, was, so, minor spoilers again. The episode 1 starts with the whole clip of Bradley Cooper being like, hey, in 10 years, let's meet back at this very spot, and they talk about, the meeting at 9 or 9:30 joke, that whole callback. And what they do is, they have the main cast, and they switch to 2 to 3 people that are, it was Claire and Mark, I don't know, played by Mark Freudenstein and Sarah Burns. I kind of know them, but either way, so it was original footage, and they'd shoot to these three people standing at the side, and they're like going like, yeah, I can't wait to meet back here. Second I saw them, like, wait a second, something's up. And it's not, I don't know if they were meaning for it to be hidden, because later on they definitely don't mean it, but it was like almost a trick. I'm like, oh, wow, don't I remember, like, I don't remember these people. And then what happens was, so they introduced these new characters that were there, but we did not see them in season 1 or the movie. So there's a couple other flashbacks of them in the background, or them putting their like names on a tree, and like the love thing of like they like do that, and then like, hey guys, and then it goes over to the original clip of the movie, and they talk, like they'd show that, and then just go off like into back from the, like away from the flashback, and the other characters would refer to them and be like, oh, you guys are still together, and like, oh, that night was great. So it was this thing of like these characters had known these people, and that was the other thing. And once again, Wet Hot American Summer, they do it well to make some jokes about it, but at the same time, I do not care about them. And it sounds weird, but like, it's a comedy that came out in 2001. I've watched it a few times. I really love the Netflix like follow-up, so I'm investing in these characters. For me to for the flow to throw in these new characters, I did not like. I just wanted to see the original people. Maybe that's why it does, like I said, feels less magical, because the first season was just the characters we knew and loved. We're getting them back. We're seeing them all together again. Where this was, yeah, we're missing a few, and we have some of these new people. And it's fine if there's like something like Paul Scheer comes in, and he's in like Elizabeth Banks, and that's fine because he has a small role. I would love more because Paul Scheer is great. But like, when they kind of put them with the original cast, it was like, didn't work for me. And it was the same thing as Adam Scott, where again, I'll say it, I'm sorry I'm saying it verbatim, but they do jokes to cover for it, and it works, but it was kind of like the first season that Bradley Cooper ski mask. There's only a few, and they made it work. Where this, I don't think I think they made it work. I think they did make it work, but it stood out a lot more, and it felt like the first season was the all-star A-class team, and this was like, on a sports team, when you have a few of your star players injured, you put in people that are good, but not as good. Or they're not the people that you've grown up for. They're not the people you saw drafted, or you've been wearing their jersey. You know, like, you want your people. And if they're not there and the other people are taking up the time, for me, I would have rathered it them just been 6 to 7 episodes even, and then just cut those storylines that they had, and there's other people tied to their storylines, but just change it and make it different and swap the characters. And that's the thing. Maybe it was just a simple of, hey, we couldn't get these people, so we needed a new group of characters to balance it out. And I guess that's the way it is. But then if that's the case, this is why I want it to end, because I don't want that to be. I don't want every season to be almost like that, where it's like the new characters are kind of taking over or taking the place of other people, and we get less. I don't want it to be fucking Grey's Anatomy. I'm sorry, I love Grey's Anatomy. I don't want it to be where when I tune that show now, it's like, okay, there's like 3 or 4 original members, and then everyone's new and new. I have no idea what it is, and all the people we fell in love with are gone, and that's why I stopped watching Grey's. That's the same thing with this. If that's going to be the case, end it. If they can do it next season, and something like a Bradley Cooper could come back, or you could use the people that were in there, like a Paul Rudd, more, I'm down. I would give this a 7 out of 10. I think the first season I'd probably give like a 9, 9.5, maybe even a 10. I have to watch it again. I didn't watch it with like a super critical eye in this sort. When I talk about it on a newscast opposed to this, if I do a newscast, I'm just going to say the things I like about it and do a little mini review, but when I know I'm going to get on a solo thing, that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, what did I like? What did I didn't like? What opposed to the other one? What score would I give it? So I'd say 9 or up for that one, because I really enjoyed it, really loved it. This one, I enjoyed. It was a fun watch. Like I said, if I ever watch it again, it'll be a bit more down the line, but it did not have the same effect that the last season did. The last season, for me, honestly, was something special, and it felt like lightning in a bottle. It's weird, but it felt like the same times I saw Guardians, like Galaxy 1, which I love the second one better, but still, it felt like that. It felt like Deadpool. Like I said, the first season just had a level of extra spice added to it, and it just felt like everything flowed together perfectly. And this felt like a little bumps on the road. There are characters that I really liked that I didn't get to see that much of. Like, Christopher Maloney is fucking amazing. Like, he's maybe he's just always the MVP in all 3 of these things, to be honest. He's fantastic. And I got to see barely much of him in this, and that's the thing of like, well, if scheduling didn't work, either don't do it or hold off until canon. And it's Netflix. You could release this next year and just wait till you film more scenes. Like, you could have it on the fucking cutting room floor somewhere, just waiting to be popped in. So yeah, I'd go 7 out of 10. Yeah, a little disappointed, but I still had a good time with it. I still enjoyed it. There's more good stuff than bad stuff. If it goes again, I would watch it, but I want it to be more an upswing. Honestly, after watching this, I think I'm gonna go back and watch the first season again, because I love that season so much from start to finish, and I had a great time with it. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought. If you liked this video, please give us a like or a subscription, whether that's on YouTube or our podcast services. We do this all for free. That helps us out a lot. If you want to see our paid content where we don't do things for free, go to Patreon. You get stuff months and months early. We have podcasts up there that aren't even coming out till December. We got a Star Wars commentary track dropping this weekend there, Force Awakens. We got Spider-Man retrospectives. We're reviewing every episode of the animated series, Netflix and Fail, gauntlet matches. Please go check out the ladder match. That was a lot of fun. It's doing well. This is the build we officially announced it in fall. We're doing Geek Mania. Yeah, it's a play on some wrestling stuff because I'm a huge wrestling nut. So it's going to be a video that has a bunch of matches. It's going to be our season finale. So there's going to be title matches. There's going to be a few surprises that we can't talk about yet. And it's going to be matches where to end the season off, to capitalize the season of what we've been doing since last January. It's a gaming competition, but it has a lot of fun storylines in it. Give it a chance. It's lots of fun. It's really good. We got a lot of other good content coming out. I'm not sure what the guys will be doing on the GeekVerse over there, but check them out. They're the main show. They do that every week and whatnot. Yeah, and until then, until the next time. I don't know when you'll hear from me next, because it's just I'm sitting in a house taking care of a baby, playing Crash, but enjoying the time off. And I thank the team over there for carrying the load right now. So share the load. Hashtag. I don't do a hashtag. Take that hashtag, throw it away. I promise you the next time you hear from me, it'll not be boring.